And just getting that down first and thinking, okay, I have 2,000 words done, like, you know, maybe I can do this. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Adama. If you've watched one of my videos before, then welcome back. If you're new, what's up? So in this video, I'm gonna be talking about how to get a first in your dissertation based on the things that I did in my dissertation process. So if that's something you're interested in, keep watching. So I know you're thinking, why should I even listen to you? Well, I am a graduate. I graduated with First Class Honours from UCL, and I did get a first in my dissertation. So to achieve a first, you need to get 70 or above, at least at my university, and I got an 80. So I was comfortably into my first, and a lot of that is because of the things that I'm about to tell you in this video, right? So keep listening if you want to get a first. The first tip here is to start early. And I know you don't want to hear it, and you're probably going to scream because you've heard it before. But the reality is, if you start early, you give yourself the time to produce a quality piece of work, right? So you have the time to collect that primary data at the standard you need it for a first. If you make a mistake, you can come back and revisit it because you have the time. You know, if you've got a few weeks to a couple of months to do a dissertation, it can be very difficult to collect primary data and still have room to go back if you need to change something, right? It also gives you the time to edit. Like, if you're writing 12,000 words like I had to do, or even 10,000 or 8,000 words, you need the time to properly go through each section and really gauge, is this answering the question I want it to answer? Or is this setting the scene effectively? Don't play yourself. Tip number 2 is to start with your methods section. And there's a few reasons for this. The first is really the easiest section to write, in my opinion. It is, like the name would suggest, quite methodical. You are stating what you did with maybe brief interruptions to explain why you chose those methods, i.e. someone in a different paper has chosen to do that method, or it's the best way for you to collect the data under the circumstances. But it is really quite standard. You are saying what you did. And getting that down on paper can really boost your confidence. One of the scariest parts about writing the 12,000 word or 8,000 word dissertation is you're starting from blank, and that's a lot of words. And just getting that down first and thinking, okay, I have 2,000 words done, like, you know, maybe I can do this. It will make the difference in the long run. So yeah, start with your methods section. Number 3, if you are collecting primary data, please keep it in its original format, as well as the electronic version, right? So if you're in the labs and you're making written notes, or you've got a table printed out and you're writing obviously by hand, keep that, because you never know what's going to happen to the electronic copy. You might have input numbers wrong. That's happened to me before. And I'm like, why is my graph doing this? And it's because I didn't input some of the data completely right the first time, which happens. Like, if I'm going through all these numbers and like my eyes are like rolling into the back of my nuts, like, dude, keep it. And another thing is input the data on the day you collect it, right? This makes life easier. It means that at least that's done. Like, it can take quite a lot of time sometimes to upload data. I know if you're doing an interview, transcribing that can take a long time. So why don't you just do them one at a time, or a day at a time? That way you take the pressure off yourself of thinking, okay, so now I have to sit down in one session and do all of this data inputting, and I kind of wanted to do some of the data presentation today as well. Just make your life easier, to be honest. Number 4 is deadlines, right? You cannot underestimate the importance of deadlines for structuring and completing your dissertation in time. I'm going to talk about 2 types of deadlines. The first are personal deadlines. So you set tasks for yourself to complete within a particular time frame. I find that weekly deadlines work best for me. Daily ones don't always go right because it's hard to gauge exactly how many hours a task will take. Whereas if you do it over a 7-day period, you know by the end of those 7 days, this task needs to be done. If on one day you don't do as much, I need to pick it up on the next day. And they are often more effective than daily tasks, I think, when it comes to such a big project. But which leads me to my second type of deadline. It can be hard to keep up with personal deadlines. When you are the only person holding you accountable, it's like, set deadlines with your dissertation supervisor. Some supervisors will do this frequently. I had a great supervisor and we had a good amount of deadlines set for me to complete. So, Adama, I want to see your method section by X time. Adama, I'd like to see the introduction by here. Do you see what I mean? And that way, instead of leaving it all to the end, you're forced to make consistent progress over the process period, right? So if your supervisor isn't one of those, then you set the deadlines. Tell them, I'd like to bring you my method section by this date for you to glance over. Even if they don't always give feedback, they're expecting it now and you don't want to let them down. Number 5 is references. I know throughout uni, all they ever do is go on about references and plagiarism. But the reality is, in scientific writing or in writing that is going to be published, it is so important to make sure that you have cited the work correctly in order to avoid any accidental plagiarism, right? So keep a check of your references as you go along. Every time you read a paper, write the reference at the top. I don't care if you're not sure if I'm going to use it, write it at the top. If you've read it, there might be some points that you actually find are relevant a couple months down the line when you're looking back at all your notes. The reference is there, you just have to bang it into the reference list at the end, and it will save you so much time once the dissertation is actually complete if the references are also complete. Now, I was pretty old school with the way I did it. Like I said, I kind of just made a note of the reference at the top, or at least where I got the paper from or the source from. But there's software out there now that can actually do this for you. It's been out there even when I did mine, but I chose not to use it. Like Endnote, Mendeley, I've heard really good reviews of these, and they help track your references with greater ease than just manual input. So have a look at those. Consider using those to make your life easier. Number 6 is, don't be afraid to speak to people who aren't your dissertation supervisor. Right? So you either chose your supervisor or one was allocated to you, and based on the similarities in what you wanted to explore in your dissertation and what they explore in their work, right? But there's often a level of mismatch or some elements of your dissertation that another professor or someone else is well versed in, right? They understand that particular section more because it's their specialty. Talk to those people. Right, so I had a fantastic dissertation supervisor, but the professor I worked with a lot of the time for the actual data collection and understanding what my data meant wasn't my dissertation supervisor, right? Because the professor that I spoke to about this was basically the guy who wrote the book on how to understand the particular indicator I was looking at, right? And so I cannot downplay the impact of that on my work, right? He showed me how to look for certain things in the lab, so like under a microscope, and how to understand what it meant. So please talk to other people. You have whole departments at your dispense, use them. Number 7 is consider other programs and software that you can use to help with data processing and data presentation. Now, I know this might come as a surprise, but Excel is not the pinnacle of data processing, which a lot of us know. But the reality is that there are so many things out there that can help with your specific type of data and the way you want to present it. Please do not underestimate what data presentation can do to a dissertation. If it's presented well, it tells the story almost for you, right? For example, I knew from previous modules that I've done at university that this program called C2 would probably be beneficial or would be the best choice for me when presenting this particular type of data I had. So if you don't know exactly which ones are out there and which ones might be applicable to your dissertation, discuss that with your dissertation supervisor, right? Just try and discuss that quite early on, and give yourself enough time to that if you need to learn some things about this program, you have that time. You don't have to be an expert, because the reality is most of us just Google how do I move the error bars 2 spaces to the right. Like, the internet is there, so you don't have to be an expert in these, but consider them, because they can make your time, you can make you a lot more time efficient. And finally, the dissertation can be so daunting. Most of us up to this point haven't written a dissertation, have never pursued a project of this stature, this big, right? So it's normal to feel a bit anxious about it when they're like, yeah, you've got to write this many words and we expect this level of data collection, and it can be scary. Look at what has been done before, right? Look at past dissertations. Most departments will have a store, either electronically or the paper copies of past dissertations. Take a look. Try to look at those that, of course, have achieved a first, and preferably some that have overlap with the dissertation project you want to do. Even if you can't find that, just seeing what a first class dissertation looks like can really help with the way you're structuring yours at present, right? So for example, my dissertation supervisor showed me master's and PhD dissertations that had similar, that had overlap with what I was looking at, right? And so even though the standard might have been completely different, it gave me ideas on how I should structure my dissertation, what I should be including, where I should be going for references, considerations for my methods section. And that can really just get you in the right direction. Like, instead of sitting there stuck thinking, I don't know what the hell to do next, look at what other people did next. That's not to say you are word for word copying what they did, but that can just spark something that means, boom, I know what direction I'm going in. Okay guys, so that's it. I hope this was useful, and I wish all of you who are watching this and haven't yet submitted a dissertation that you get a first in your dissertation, because I don't think it is out of reach for anyone who is willing to put the work in. Right? So if you liked this video, go ahead and like it. If you have any questions or you want me to elaborate on something more, leave me a comment. And yeah, subscribe if you want. Otherwise, laters.